to winning isn't easy. UNUM is called out by the court for using a nurse consultant rather than a qualified healthcare professional. Now, disability carriers like UNUM have many tools in their denial or termination toolbox. And one of those is to use in-house nurses to summarize the medical records, determine restrictions and limitations, and determine whether the claimant is getting appropriate medical care. Is that permissible? Well, let me tell you the story of Catherine Black, who was paid long-term disability benefits until UNUM terminated her on the basis that she was magically no longer disabled. She appealed, and ultimately this case ends up in federal court. And she argued that she didn't get a full, fair, and review required by the ERISA regulations. She argued that UNUM denied her claim based on a medical judgment by a nurse, and it had failed to consult with a qualified healthcare professional on appeal. Well, what did UNUM do? Well, UNUM argued that the denial wasn't based on medical judgment, but it denied her claim because she no longer had any restrictions that prevented her from performing sedentary work. In my humble, but I think correct opinion, that's a rather stupid argument because the only way the carrier could determine whether the claimant has restrictions and limitations is to consult with the medical providers and consult with their own staff. And in this particular instance, UNUM consulted with their nurse, who magically reached a medical conclusion that there were no longer restrictions and limitations. So what did the court do with this argument? In the case of Black versus UNUM Life, the court said, look, UNUM's denial is really based on a medical judgment. UNUM got updated medical records. They consulted Black's doctors about her medical conditions. They asked her doctors to whether her ability, she continued to have an ability to perform sedentary work, and then had their nurse case manager comment on that, rendering a medical judgment. So the court obviously saw through this argument. Black also argued that UNUM had violated ERISA regulations, which required a full and fair review of a claim. In other words, UNUM is required to consult with a healthcare professional who has appropriate training and experience in the field of medicine. That is the basis of the claim. The ERISA regulations basically then prevent the disability carrier from using the same doctor that they used in the initial denial process during the appeals process. In other words, you know that if a doctor opined that there was no basis for the disability, they really weren't going to change their mind on appeal. So the ERISA regulations prevent this sort of double dipping by using the same doctor on the same question. And in this particular instance, UNUM blew that ERISA regulation and once again were chastised by the court. It's clear the carriers have to consult with a different physician on appeal than the one it relied on in the initial denial. Now, of course, the other issue here was that Nurse Abbott, who was UNUM's consultant, was a nurse and did not have appropriate training and experience in the field of medicine to address Black's restrictions and limitations. And the issue, of course, was that this was problematic because Abbott, the nurse, had done more than just summarize the medical opinions of the treating physicians, who were the same physicians who UNUM had consulted with when it initially denied the benefits. So, you know, they sort of played this both ways. They had the nurse review the records. They had the nurse get information from the treating physicians. She reviewed that information and rendered an opinion, but she wasn't competent or qualified to render an opinion since she wasn't a specialist. And of course, the judge agreed, but unfortunately for Black, the judge remanded the case back to UNUM to allow them to sort of fix the basis of the denial, shore up the denial, and get it right the second time. Now, the court's decision, in my opinion, was the correct decision, but sending it back for a redo, I think, was a mistake. What do you think UNUM's going to do this time? They're probably going to deny it after they clean up all their errors. Got it? All right, let's take a break.
Professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claims Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy, with tips and to-dos that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you don't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we're giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.